The Life of Takemichi Hanagaki, Tokyo Revengers. Takemichi Hanagaki, or Takemitchy, is the story's protagonist and a young man who can travel back in time, a time leaper. In order to save his girlfriend Hinata Tachibana, and over time, everyone he comes to care about, he decides to become a top member of the Tokyo Manji Gang in order to do so. Welcome to the Amagi! In today's video, we're going over the life of Takemichi Hanagaki. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. The Amagi's reach stretches beyond just this channel, so if you're a fan of us, please consider subscribing to our other channels and following us on all our social media. Help us reach our goal of passing 100,000 followers on all of our accounts by the end of the year. And with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Toman Arc. As an adult, Takemichi is leading an awful life. He has a dead-end job where his boss, 6 years younger than him, is constantly scolding him for his laziness. While wasting away his time in his apartment watching TV, he hears on the news that his only girlfriend in his life has died from a conflict involving the Tokyo Manji Gang, involved with her younger brother Naoto. Later that day, while he's waiting for a train in the subway, he solemnly wonders where he went wrong in life. Suddenly, someone pushes him onto the tracks. He closes his eyes, bracing for his death. He wakes up exactly 12 years in the past, July 4th, 2005, and is having a conversation with his friends from middle school. They're heading to Shibuya 3rd Mid to beat some second years and are depending on Takemichi's cousin Masaru if something goes wrong, as he is the third year who is claiming to be the boss there. Takemichi is a bit confused about what's going on, but tries to go along with it, as he believes he's seeing his life flash before his eyes. While they're waiting for the second years to show up, some third years show up instead. They try dropping Masaru's name for help, but it turns out he's just an errand boy. Takemichi and his friends are mercilessly beaten and are forced to become servants for Tokyo Manji Gang. After that, Takemichi goes to check on Hinata, but as he sees her, he isn't able to explain why he's there at her apartment. A bit later, he saves a boy from some bullies. As he talks with him afterwards, he realizes he's Naoto, the younger brother of Hinata. Without any reservations, Takemichi explains to him how he time-leaped and that his sister will die in 12 years, so he must protect her. As he shakes Naoto's hand, he wakes up back in the present and is in the hospital. There, he's met by the future Naoto, who explains to him that he performed a time leap and has changed the future. Because of Takemichi's warning, he became a detective, but still wasn't able to protect his sister. The two work together to save Hinata. Naoto gives him as much information as he has about Tokyo Manji Gang and warns Takemichi that Manjiro Sano and Teta Kisaki, the top two Tokyo Manji Gang members, must never meet. They figure out that shaking hands is the trigger for Takemichi's time-leaping abilities and subsequently shakes hands with Takemichi so he can try and fix things. When he returns to the past, Takemichi is suddenly in a fight with lots of spectators, but before he realizes what is going on, he gets knocked out. As he wakes up, he gets beaten for losing by Masataka Kiyomizu and his men. As they're about to leave, Takemichi desperately asks if he could meet Sano and Kisaki, but that angers Masataka, who then takes his bat and beats Takemichi even more, and warns him to never mention Sano's name in front of him ever again or he will kill him. Terrified for his life, Takemichi runs away and decides to go meet Naoto to return to the present. He meets Hinata again at her apartment and renews his vow to protect her. On the next day, Takuya, one of Takemichi's friends, has to fight in the arranged fight. However, he's a weak fighter, and the moment the fight starts, Takemichi stops the fight and proposes that he fights against Masataka instead, which the latter accepts. Masataka starts ruthlessly beating Takemichi, but somehow Takemichi manages to stand up and refuses to give up. In the end, Masataka asks for his bat, but Ken Draken Ryuguji arrives, interrupting the fight and saying that he's losing the audience. Everyone begins bowing in respect as Manjiro Sano, Mikey, Toman's boss, arrives behind Draken. Mikey approaches Takemichi and asks his name, but ends up nicknaming him Takemitchy. Mikey wonders if he's really a middle schooler and says that from now on, he's his pal. Mikey then beats up Masataka and stops the underground fights he's organizing. As everyone leaves, Takemichi's friends get excited because Takemitchy was recognized by the invincible Mikey. Akun tells him that if Takemichi didn't take on Masataka, he would have tried to kill Masataka with a knife so they could be free from his torment. On the next day, Mikey and Draken come to Takemichi's classroom and nonchalantly take him with them, while beating some of Takemichi's classmates in the hallway. Overhearing that Takemichi is being kidnapped by the Toman leaders, Hinata bravely stands up to Mikey and slaps him. She grabs Takemichi's hand trying to leave, but Draken stops them. Seeing the unfavorable situation, Takemichi stops Draken and tells him to release Hinata because she's his girlfriend. Mikey tells Takemichi to prepare himself to die. Takemichi accepts but requests that he not lay a finger on Hinata. As Mikey is about to punch Takemichi, he stops with a smile and tells him that he's joking and wouldn't hit a girl. They leave peacefully with Takemichi and go near the river, where Mikey tells Takemichi he is reminiscent of his brother, and announces that he wants to make a new age of delinquents and invites Takemichi to join him on that journey. As Takemichi parts with Mikey and Draken, he walks past a group of delinquents and subconsciously recognizes one of them to be Kisaki. On a train, Hina thanks Takemichi for accompanying her shopping and proceeds to ask him how he did at finals. Takemichi unconsciously blurts out that it takes him back, to which Hina questions why it takes him back, since they just took them. Hina then decides to help Takemichi study at her house. Eventually, as they arrive at Hina's house, Takemichi feels astonished as it's his first time in a girl's room, to which Hina becomes embarrassed. He also found out the reason why Naoto joined the police. Hearing the fireworks outside, Hina and Takemichi decided to go to the rooftop and watch it, admiring the fireworks. He contemplates, thinking that he doesn't want to go back since Hina died in the present, and decides to hold Hina's hand while closing his eyes. Upon opening his eyes, he finds out that he's holding Naoto's hand. Despite that, Takemichi goes back to the present. Back to the present, Takemichi learns from Naoto that his present body is in a dead-like state while he's in the past. Furthermore, he finds out that his time-leaping ability takes him back 12 years back the same day, meaning that if he stays for a week in the past, then returns to the present, 1 week has also passed. Takemichi then tells Naoto he met Manjiro Sano, making Naoto wonder why he didn't kill him, and that if he could have killed him instead. Takemichi suggests they go and see Manjiro, as he wants to learn from him why Toman changed. However, Naoto refuses the idea, saying that it doesn't matter and it's all the same. Takemichi strongly states that Mikey is a trustworthy person, and he wants to hear from Mikey himself why Toman changed. He says that before he goes back to the past, he wants to find Mikey and ask him. Hearing this, Naoto notices that Takemichi changed, describing him not as frail anymore. Takemichi becomes flattered by Naoto's compliment. Moebius Arc. Takemichi, wanting to know more about Moebius, returns to the present. He tells Naoto that he doesn't believe Mikey and Draken would end in a conflict, and asks him to track Nobutaka Ozanai in order to ask him what happened between Toman and Moebius. Naoto tracks Nobutaka to a construction site. They end up seeing Nobutaka being yelled at for being late and are surprised he used to be a Moebius commander. They end up talking with him, and Nobutaka initially refuses to talk about Toman. However, he denies Naoto's accusations that he ordered Ken's death. Nobutaka reveals that they didn't kill Ken, but the incident was a trigger that led to Toman's internal conflicts, and all was planned by someone. As Nobutaka's boss calls him, Nobutaka leaves, stating that if Ken didn't die, his life wouldn't have been ruined. Naoto believes Nobutaka, as he looked quite shaken, and realizes that someone used Nobutaka and wished to split Toman. Takemichi then returns to the past in order to warn Mikey. Takemichi wakes up on a bike with Atsushi Sendo and gets happy that Atsushi is still alive. He asks him if he has any dreams, and Atsushi reveals his dreams of becoming a hairstylist. Takemichi supports him and states that he believes in him. Takemichi then leaves and goes to Manjiro, who is with Ken, Pachin, and Peian. Takemichi asks Manjiro to call off the fight with Moebius, stating that someone is plotting the fight, but he can't tell him how he knows. Pachin then pushes Takemichi aside, warning him that he will kill him if he says anything else. Takemichi keeps insisting it's a trap, which annoys Pachin, and he starts hitting him. Manjiro states that they're going to fight Moebius as he's made up his mind already. As Takemichi states that he won't back down, Ken stops Pachin, stating that maybe they need to look more into Moebius. Manjiro then wonders if Ken is against Toman. Nobutaka Ozanai then shows up and states they should respect them, as he is 2 years older, which makes Pachin angry, and he rushes at him. But Nobutaka knocks him away with a punch and jokes that they need to rename it Middle School Baby Alliance. Nobutaka comments that he heard they're picking a fight with them, and that he decided to bring the fight to them, and calls the rest of Moebius, who surround the Toman members. Moebius surrounds the Toman members. Looking at Nobutaka Ozanai, Takemichi can't believe this is the same person he met in the present. Nobutaka then hits Takemichi as he felt he was looking down on him. Pachin then interferes and wishes to fight Nobutaka, and Manjiro tells the rest to just watch. Nobutaka takes on Pachin and easily beats him. Pachin apologizes to Manjiro for being worthless, but Manjiro states he didn't lose. While Moebius members mock Manjiro and the rest, Manjiro approaches Nobutaka and knocks him out with a single kick. Manjiro then states that whoever thought that Pachin lost to get out of there, or he will kill them, and as long as he is with Toman, they will never lose to anyone. Nobutaka manages to get up and takes a broken bottle, but as he rushes towards Ken and Manjiro, Ken manages to easily stop him. Ken tells Nobutaka that he lost due to losing the delinquent way as he raped a woman and assaulted someone's parents. Seeing how strong Manjiro and Ken are, the Moebius members start to fear them. Ken then announces that Moebius will be under Tokyo Manji Gang. As they hear the police approaching, everyone runs. Takemichi recalls Nobutaka's words that this was the trigger, but is surprised everything ended so peaceful and wonders if he's missing something. In that moment, Pachin stabs Nobutaka in the back, which shocks everyone. Pachin apologizes to Manjiro and tells them to run as he intends to turn himself in. While running, Takemichi loses consciousness. Takemichi wakes up in the hospital with Emma next to him. He wonders about Manjiro and Ken, and while crying, Emma explains that they ended up fighting due to Pachin and Toman now being divided into the Manjiro faction and the Ken faction. While Emma cries in Takemichi's lap, Hinata comes and mistakes the situation. Takemichi spends 3 days at home as he's bored, and he ends up finishing a large puzzle. His friends visit him and tell him that Toman is in a bad situation and is likely to split. But then they start laughing and explain that Ken and Manjiro fight often. At that moment, Ken shows up, bringing watermelon, and shocks everyone. As they eat it, Ken tells them that Pachin will be held for a year and Nobutaka is alive. Takemichi asks about Manjiro, which makes Ken angry, and he slams the table, messing up Takemichi's puzzle. Ken states that he's done with Manjiro, and Toman is splitting, and then he leaves. As Ken leaves Takemichi's home, he sees Manjiro in front, and both wonder what the other one is doing there. Both state that they're there to see Takemichi, who's their friend. As they continue to argue, Takemichi tries to stop them, which annoys Ken. Manjiro then takes Takemichi's bike and throws it at Ken, who dodges, and the bike breaks on the wall. Ken takes a bat that Takemichi scored a home run with and breaks it. As they continue to fight, they continue to break Takemichi's precious items as he cries over them. As they break everything and prepare to fight, Takemichi gets angry and tells them to stop. Manjiro and Ken realize they went overboard and didn't even realize that they broke everything. As Takemichi tries to punch Manjiro, he dodges and Takemichi falls into the trash. Ken apologizes and asks Takemichi to calm down. Takemichi explains that they don't care about those around them and that their fight will split Toman. Manjiro informs Takemichi that he has shit on his head and then runs away with Ken as Takemichi stinks. Takemichi's friends also run away. A bit later, after Takemichi washes his hair, he joins Manjiro and Ken, who have made up and apologized for their behavior. Manjiro states he forgot about what they even fought about, but Takemichi guesses it's due to Pachin, as even though he was guilty, Manjiro still wanted to help him, while Ken wanted to honor Pachin's resolve. With Manjiro and Ken no longer fighting, Takemichi realizes he changed history, and Ken won't die. Hinata and Emma show up, and Hinata asks Takemichi if he's free on August 3rd, as she wants to go to the festival with him, and Takemichi gladly accepts. Emma sees Ken and Manjiro together and realizes they have made up and are no longer fighting. On August 3rd, Takemichi, Hinata, Emma, and Ken go to the festival together. Hinata roots for Emma, knowing that Ken doesn't really get her hints. She knows why Emma was with Takemichi before that, but she still hasn't forgiven Takemichi for cheating on her, but will forgive him if he wins her a special prize at the shooting game. Takemichi tries his best and manages to hit the target, but is unable to knock it off and ends up not winning. As it starts to rain, Takemichi and Hinata run to hide under a tree. Hinata's geta is the wrong size and she loses balance, but Takemichi manages to catch her. While staying together, Hinata tells him that she forgives him as he tried hard for the reward. Takemichi realizes it's a good moment for a kiss and attempts to kiss her, but his phone rings. He is annoyed at Kazushi for calling him at that moment, but Kazushi tells him to warn Ken to watch his back, as he heard that some that support Manjiro and are going after Ken. and that even though Ken and Manjiro are good now, some guys from their factions are even more riled up because of that. Takemichi realizes the conflict hasn't stopped. Takemichi hangs up the phone and apologizes to Hinata and asks her to wait for him. He goes around looking for Ken, but finds some Toman members with a Moebius guy, who gives Masataka Kiyomizu a blade, and Masataka states that he will kill Ken. One of Masataka's guys finds Takemichi and brings him to Masataka. Masataka then orders Takemichi to go buy them drinks, and he and his gang start beating Takemichi. Takemichi realizes that he's not gotten stronger, but only believes so as he was around Manjiro and Ken. After beating him up, Masataka ties Takemichi with duct tape and leaves him. Some moments later, Hinata finds the tied-up Takemichi and removes the duct tape from his mouth. Takemichi starts crying, stating that he tried his best, but in the end, he couldn't save anyone. If he was like Manjiro or Ken, he could have beaten them, but as he's worthless, he couldn't do anything. Hinata then kisses him, saying that it was her first kiss, and she gave it to him as he's special to her. He cries and gets frustrated with others, which makes him the coolest one. After crying for a bit, Hinata frees Takemichi, and he decides to go and stop Masataka. Takemichi encounters Takashi Mitsuya and informs him that Ken will be attacked. However, Takashi already knows, but is surprised it's Masataka and not Peion. Takashi reveals that Manjiro wanted to pay to free Pachin, but Ken was against it. Takashi is surprised that Takemichi managed to stop Manjiro and Ken's fight, even after their captains couldn't, but is thankful to him as that could have split Toman. Takashi states that everyone came to an agreement that they couldn't do anything about Pachin except Peion. Elsewhere, Peion finds Ken and Emma. While looking for Ken Ryuguji, Takashi explains that Peion believes Toman abandoned Pachin and teamed up with some Moebius members to take out Ken. Seeing Peion, Ken knows that he isn't happy with what happened and prepares to fight him, but suddenly a Moebius member attacks him with a bat from behind. Takemichi recalls Naoto's words about Ken's incident happening on a parking lot and heads towards the parking lot. They find Ken fighting numerous Moebius members. As he's getting tired, he sits on the ground and tells Takashi that he leaves things to him. A moment later, they hear a bike and recognize it as Manjiro Sano's. Manjiro gets off his bike and realizes he was called somewhere else so that Peion can be with Ken and break Toman, but wonders who tricked him into doing that. Shuji Hanma reveals himself, stating that Manjiro isn't just brawn, and introduces himself as the temporary leader of Moebius. Manjiro attempts to kick him in the head, but Shuji manages to block it. Shuji reveals that they intended to destroy Toman by having them fight internally, but this is also fine, as he can kill Manjiro with his own 2 hands. Shuji then calls 100 Moebius members and warns them not to run, or he will chase them and beat out all their teeth. Takemichi realizes that he changed the events and a new conflict arises. As Moebius prepares to fight the 4 Toman members, the rest of Toman arrives on bikes, ready for a fight. As the fight starts, Takemichi goes around looking for Ken, wishing to protect him from Masataka Kiyomizu. While beating down Moebius members, Manjiro approaches Peion and asks him why he attacked Ken, even though they have settled things down. Peion doesn't accept that Toman gave up on Pachin and starts punching Manjiro. He states that Pachin was everything to him, and if Toman abandoned him, it's natural that he becomes their enemy. Peion knows that Manjiro can beat him in a single hit, but wonders why he isn't fighting. Manjiro pulls Peion's head towards his and tells him to look at him, and if he ever smiled about Pachin getting caught. Takemichi had told Manjiro he would be sad if Toman broke because of their fight, and Manjiro had never thought that Toman may end up with all of them fighting. Manjiro asks Peion to keep hitting him until he's satisfied, but he doesn't want to fight with his own family and wishes Peion to return to them. Takemichi eventually spots Masataka and decides to stop him, but then sees him holding a bloody blade while repeating he did it. Takemichi then turns around and sees Ken bleeding on the ground. Takemichi finds Ken stabbed and informs Manjiro, who attempts to get to Ken, but Shuji Hanma gets in his way and engages Manjiro in a fight. As Shuji won't let him get to Ken, Manjiro tells Takemichi to take care of Ken. Seeing Ken is still alive, Takemichi puts him on his back and tries to carry him to a hospital. Hinata and Emma see him and inform him that they've already called for an ambulance. While waiting for the ambulance, Takemichi sees Masataka Kiyomizu and his gang approaching. As he gets scared, Ken awakens and thanks him for helping him, and he tells him to take Hinata and Emma and run. Takemichi realizes that Ken may have noticed that Takemichi wanted to run away, but as he lost everything because he ran away, he decides not to let his second chance get away. He goes to Masataka and states that he isn't running away and is getting his revenge. Takemichi comments that they haven't finished their one-on-one as he didn't lose. Masataka thinks Takemichi is going crazy, but gets annoyed when Ken, Hinata, and Emma bet that Takemichi would win. Takemichi attempts to punch Masataka. However, he stabs him in the arm, stating that this isn't one-on-one, but an execution. Takemichi attempts to hit Masataka, but he knocks him back. Takemichi recalls how he wanted to take over Japan and be a top delinquent. However, his dreams were shattered by Masataka. He realizes it was his own fault as he was too weak to challenge anyone again. Takemichi then tackles Masataka and bites him. As Masataka hits him, trying to make him let go, Takemichi manages to get on his back and starts choking him, stating that he may not be like Manjiro, but is Takemichi Hanagaki. As he doesn't let go, Masataka eventually loses consciousness and Takemichi wins. Masataka's gang prepares to attack Takemichi. As he stands, he tells Hinata to take Emma and run. As Hinata and Emma leave, Takemichi asks Ken if he wonders what heaven would look like. But laughing, Ken stands up and tells him he's going to hell. Masataka's gang attacks, but moments before they reach Takemichi and Ken, Atsushi comes out and punches one of them, making him drop his knife. Makoto, Takuya, and Kazushi also come out and stand in front of Ken and Takemichi. Atsushi informs Takemichi that Hinata has contacted him. They start fighting Masataka's group, but are easily getting beaten up. However, inspired by Takemichi when he first faced Masataka, Atsushi and the rest refuse to give up and continue standing up. An ambulance's sirens are then heard, and Takemichi grins, thinking they have won. Hearing the sirens, Masataka's gang decides to run, leaving Masataka behind. Hinata and Emma lead the medics to Takemichi and Ken. Meanwhile, Toman manages to beat Moebius with only Manjiro and Shuji still standing. Shuji is impressed by Manjiro's stamina. However, a man comes to pick Shuji up as the cops are coming. While everyone is running, Shuji tells Manjiro that he's about to witness the creation of the most sinister biker gang alliance in Kanto, Valhalla, and reintroduces himself as the first vice commander of Valhalla. Takemichi is with Ken in the ambulance as they head toward the hospital. Ken thanks Takemichi for saving his life and tells him to take care of Manjiro. At that moment, he goes into cardiac arrest, and the doctors start to give him CPR. They reach the hospital and immediately take him to the operation room. One by one, Takemichi's friends and Toman members arrive. Manjiro tells them that Ken is a man of his word, and he promised him that they will rule the world together, thus he won't die, and they need to believe in him. As the operation ends, the doctors come out and inform the group that the operation was a success and Ken is alive. The group is happy and celebrates. They head out to tell the rest about Ken. However, Payon states that he cannot face them. Takashi tells them that they know he did it for Pachin's sake, but the one that was thinking the most about Pachin was Ken. Takashi tells him how Ken went every day with Pachin's parents to see Pachin, even though he was not allowed to see him as he isn't a relative. Learning that, Payon agrees to apologize to everyone. Going outside the hospital, Takemichi realizes it's past midnight and it's August 4th, which means Ken didn't die on August 3rd, and his mission is a success. As Toman members celebrate that Ken is alive, Takemichi notices that Manjiro is missing and goes to look for him. He finds him alone in a corner, crying out of relief that Ken is alive, and decides not to interrupt him. On August 10th, the rumors of the fight had brought out more rumors that Takemichi had become a legend for stopping the fight. As he enjoys his newfound fame, he doesn't want to go back to the present. He goes to visit Ken, but ends up being scolded for how lame he looks and acts. Takemichi yells at him that he can't understand how he lived so far in the shadows, and how good it feels now. Ken hands Takemichi Toman's uniform and states that it's from Manjiro and that it belonged to him from when he first formed Toman. Takemichi is free to decide if he wants to wear it, but Manjiro wanted Takemichi to have it as he saved Toman. Ken stands up and bows, thanking Takemichi one more time. Ken then tells Takemichi to go see Manjiro on the roof, where he probably sleeps. Going on the roof, Manjiro wonders why Shuji wanted to cause inner conflict within Toman, and why he used Masataka to kill Ken. He finds it even more mysterious that Takemichi realized all that before anyone else and tried to stop it. Manjiro wonders who Takemichi really is. As Takemichi tries to come up with an answer, Manjiro mocks him for his lame outfit and thanks him for saving Ken. Takemichi wishes to stay with the rest, but decides it's time to return to the present. He goes to Hinata's place to see Naoto. Since he got Hinata in a mess, he tries to make up for it and gives her a 4-clover necklace. As Naoto shows up, Takemichi shakes his hand and returns to the present. He believes that since Ken is alive, Teta Kisaki won't become number 2. Manjiro won't change due to Ken's death, Atsushi Sendo won't kill himself, and Hinata won't get killed. As he returns to the present, he finds himself in the video store, where his manager Hasegawa is scolding him once again for not working properly. He's surprised he's working there as he got fired. He goes over to his phone but can't find Naoto in his contacts. He sees a notification reminder for a scheduled meeting in the salon and wonders what it is. Going to the salon, he finds Atsushi Sendo working there and wonders if he became a hairstylist. Atsushi states that he just started and is only an assistant. Atsushi reveals he called him because they will finally allow him to start cutting hair next month and wants Takemichi to be his first customer, as they made that promise. Takemichi gets happy that he manages to change the present. He then receives a call from an unknown number and realizes it's Naoto, who realizes that he managed to do it and change the present and wants them to go see Hinata. As he rides in Naoto's car, Takemichi thinks back to his feelings of helplessness when he learned about Hinata's death. Takemichi excitedly thinks about meeting Hinata, while Naoto tells him that the incident that killed Hinata, the Toman dispute, did not occur in the current future. He remarks that he's surprised that Takemichi successfully accomplished his mission, as he comes off as a screw-up. They arrive at Hinata's apartment, with Takemichi excited, saying that it's a dream come true. He wonders if Hinata had changed since 12 years ago, and Naoto replies that she has. She's now an adult and an elementary school teacher. Takemichi envisions Hinata still being thrilled to see him, but he reminds himself of the realism of the situation. Suddenly nervous, he tells Naoto that he cannot see Hinata and that Naoto should visit her alone, as she does not know that he saved her and they're now strangers to each other. As he walks away, Takemichi says that telling Hinata to have a good life is good enough, believing that Hinata has forgotten about him. He thinks about how he's changed the future, yet he himself has not changed, as he's still in the same circumstances as the beginning. He's still a 26-year-old virgin part-timer and a loser. As he prepares to return to his life, he bumps into a grown-up Hinata, who remarks that he shows up at the weirdest times. Takemichi cries upon seeing her, remembering all the times she helped motivate him in the past, driving him to change the future. Eventually, back in Hina's apartment, despite their past closeness, Hinata, Naoto, and Takemichi sit awkwardly. Unable to withstand the embarrassing atmosphere, Naoto decides to leave, but Takemichi desperately begs him to stay, as he's extremely nervous. Hinata laughs at Takemichi's reaction, remarking that he hasn't changed, while Takemichi notices the 4-leaf clover necklace Hinata wears. Naoto decides to bring the group elsewhere in an attempt to lighten up the atmosphere. In the car, it's equally as awkward as in the apartment. Takemichi studies Hinata in the rearview mirror, wondering if it's the same necklace he gave her 12 years ago, and if Hina still loves him. His insecurity gets the best of him, and he tells himself that it is a coincidence, but tries to check again to be completely sure. Suddenly, Naoto is being called by the police and is needed for backup. He decides to leave the car, and Hinata will come back for it tomorrow. Takemichi contemplates that he lost his chance to get back Hina and thinks twice about the necklace. Hinata decides to stop the car at a car park, and she asks Takemichi to walk with her. Hinata tells Takemichi that the park evokes memories, specifically a memory of her with someone she liked on Christmas Eve. Hearing this, Takemichi realizes that Hinata has moved on and laments about his naivete. He thinks back to when Hinata dumped him 12 years ago. Hinata says that she has still not forgotten the person she was with on Christmas Eve, who broke up with her. Takemichi replies that he cannot believe that anyone would dump her, and Hinata, crying, wonders why she was dumped, imploring Takemichi. Takemichi comes to the realization that Hinata is talking about him. Overwhelmed with this information, he rushes to the bathroom, confused as his memories do not align with this information. Hinata's words about not forgetting Takemichi compel him to decide to change, and he decides to ask her out. As he walks out of the bathroom, he encounters a man who remarks in surprise that Takemichi is not in the car and that he hoped to take them both. Though confused at first, upon seeing the man's hand tattoos, Takemichi realizes that the man is Shuji and gets an uneasy feeling from this. He rushes to Naoto's car, where Hinata is just sitting in, just in time to see a car driving into it. Feeling horrified, Takemichi rushes towards the crash. The driver of the car turns out to be a gravely injured Akun, who asks Takemichi why he's not in the car. Aku says the same things as he said during his previous encounter with Takemichi in the future, wondering when things went wrong, how he came to fear Kisaki, and implores Takemichi to save everyone, while Takemichi screams in despair as the events turned out the same. Akun's car explodes, and Takemichi rushes to Hinata, who's still alive. As Takemichi attempts to get Hinata out of the car in order to escape the impending fire from the explosion, she thanks him. Takemichi tells her that they do not have time to talk, as the car will explode soon. However, Hinata is gravely injured and has lost all feeling in her legs. Crying, Takemichi crawls into the car, hugging Hinata and confessing that he has and will always love her. Hinata replies that she's glad to hear that, and tells him to leave the car as she does not want him to die with her, which Takemichi refuses to do. Feeling the approaching fire, Hinata pushes Takemichi away, smiling at him before the car explodes and implodes into flames. As the fire roars in front of him, Takemichi swears to save Hina and find a future where she's alive, no matter how many attempts it takes. He resolves to become the top member of Toman in order to do this. Valhalla Arc. At Hinata's funeral, Takemichi Hanagaki reminisces about him meeting Hinata at her doorstep, witnessing the car crash, and him telling Hinata he will always love her. Takemichi approaches Hinata's shrine and decides to pay respects to her. Takemichi froze and shed a tear, with Naoto crying in agony about Hinata's death. On the outside of the building, Hinata's mother approaches Takemichi, remarking that he has grown up. She gives him Hinata's favorite necklace, which was a gift from him, and remarks that Hinata must have loved him very much while he cries. Naoto tells Takemichi that he researched Atsushi, who is married and had children in the current future. In reaction to this, Takemichi wonders why Atsushi still killed Hina, despite knowing that it was a suicide mission. Naoto concludes that Atsushi's family used to force him into doing it, as they're currently missing. Naoto asks about Atsushi's last words, and upon hearing that they were the same after a previous time leap, he says that their actions were in vain, as they were unable to escape fate and change the future. Takemichi tells him that he's wrong, as Ken's death must not have been the deciding factor in turning Toman bad. He concludes that they must get to the root of the problem and that Toman must be destroyed. He will become the leader of Toman to do this. Amused by this plan, Naoto laughs, but Takemichi replies that he's serious, as he will do anything to save Hinata, and Naoto thanks him for cheering him up, due to the unfeasibility of the plan. Takemichi wonders how saving Ken could lead to the current future, and Naoto looks into Ken's current life. Later, on October 20th, 2017, Naoto contacts Takemichi and brings him to the Tokyo Detention Center, telling Takemichi that Ken is no longer in Toman, but is not dead. Instead, he's on death row. They have come to jail to get information from Ken. As he steps into the visitation booth, Ken remarks that he's not seen Takemichi in a long time, and he's happy to see him doing well, while Takemichi tears up upon seeing him. Ken steps into the visitation booth and says that he's happy that Takemichi is alright. Takemichi introduces Naoto to Ken. Takemichi finds out that Ken is on death row because he committed murder, and asks Ken how this happened, as well as what happened to Toman. Ken says he does not regret his actions, and that he knows he deserves to be in prison, as the current state of Toman is because of him not stopping that one guy. Ken reflects on the Toman of his middle school days, which he believes was better, as they had fun, and it meant everything to him. He reiterates that he has no regrets, and he still would have lived that way if given a second chance. Takemichi realizes Ken has not changed from 12 years ago. Despite having few regrets, Ken says that he would still make sure to kill that one guy, Kisaki, if he had that second chance. As the visitation time ends, Ken orders Takemichi to leave Tokyo for his safety, as Kisaki will likely try to kill him again. Just as Ken leaves, Takemichi asks why Kisaki would target him. Ken says that Kisaki's love for Manjiro turned into hatred, and that Kisaki wants to take away everything Manjiro holds dear. In the hallways of the prison, Ken thinks back to the murders he committed on the orders of Kisaki. Back at Naoto's apartment, Takemichi is still in disbelief about Ken's status as a murderer. He thinks back about Ken's words and wonders what kind of person Kisaki is. Naoto replies that Kisaki currently holds one of the most important positions in Toman, the acting leader. He believes Kisaki is responsible for the repeated murders of Hinata, but says that the police cannot find any leads to Kisaki. Takemichi says that though he wants to defeat Kisaki, he has not met him in the past yet. Repeating his previous vow, Takemichi says that he has to become the leader of Toman, and upon hearing this, Naoto says that he thought Takemichi was just joking when he first said that. Takemichi replies that it's the only way he can save everyone and stop Kisaki. Laying out his plan, Takemichi decides to become the captain of the 3rd Division in Pachin's place. Naoto says that this is a reckless idea, but trusts Takemichi to successfully fix the future, shaking his hand. As he travels back to the past, Takemichi wonders how the future turned out like this and vows to fix the future. He arrives in the past, sitting in a bathhouse. The water near him begins to bubble, and Manjiro playfully pops up from the water, much to the surprise of Takemichi. Ken tells them to quiet down and grow up, and Manjiro ridicules him for using that shampoo hat, despite his tough exterior. Takemichi asks Ken about his stab wound, and Ken replies that he's fine due to his working out. He shows off his scar and his abs, and Takemichi remarks that he does not look like a middle schooler. Mikey suddenly punches Ken in the abdomen, which proves that Ken is still recovering from his injury, telling him not to push himself. In reaction to this, Mikey and Ken end up playfully fighting in the bathhouse, with Ken's shower head falling in the air and ending up on Takemichi's head. Both Mikey and Ken have a laugh about how Takemichi always has things end up on his head. Takemichi thinks back to what Ken said about how Toman was better when they were kids. He wishes things could be like this forever. They leave the bathhouse, where Mitsuya, Yasuhiro, and Nahoya are waiting outside. Mikey tells Takemichi that they're going to nominate a new 3rd Division captain. As everyone enters, Ken announces that they will be choosing a new 3rd Division captain. Everyone wonders who that would be. Manjiro calls for the new captain to come out, and Takemichi starts to wonder if he means him. Teda Kisaki then walks up, passing Takemichi, who recalls he had to see him before, but he doesn't know who he is. Teta goes to Manjiro and sits with his back to him, which angers the rest of the members. Kisaki's men then announce that the new 3rd Division captain is Teta Kisaki, which shocks Takemichi, as he recalls everyone telling him that it's Kisaki's fault. Some of the members recognize Kisaki as being part of Moebius and are against it. Ken shuts them up. Manjiro explains that they will be facing Valhalla, and to defeat them, Toman needs to grow, and re-announces Kisaki as the new 3rd Division captain. Knowing this is the worst outcome and what will become with Hinata, Takemichi gathers courage and punches Kisaki. Ken yells at him for interrupting the ceremony as he isn't even part of Toman. The other captains get angry for Takemichi disrespecting Manjiro's decision. While wondering what to do, Keisuke Baji steps up and attacks Takemichi, but is stopped by Takashi Mitsuya. Manjiro asks Keisuke what he's doing there, as he wasn't allowed to come to their meetings due to certain internal conflicts. Keisuke states that he punched some twerp and that he will finally be chased out of Toman. Keisuke then states that he will be joining Valhalla and quits his position of 1st Division captain of Toman. Kisaki asks Takemichi if he prefers the face or the guts, as he prefers the face. Takemichi wonders about what and chooses the guts, but at that moment, Kisaki punches him in the face, knocking him out and guessing he tightened up his gut. Takemichi later awakens with Manjiro next to him. Manjiro wonders if Takemichi dislikes Teta and his comments that it's hard growing an organization, as when he brings new blood, the old one leaves. Manjiro then asks for a favor and explained that as he grew, he had a neighbor kid that always picked fights with him, but he always beat him. That guy is Keisuke, who punched Takemichi previously and is a founding member of Toman. Manjiro created Toman in his first year of middle school along with Ken, Takashi, Pachin, and Keisuke. Manjiro then asked Takemichi to bring Keisuke back from Valhalla as he really likes him. Takemichi agrees but wants something in return. Manjiro to kick Kisaki out of Toman. Although he can't explain it, Kisaki will ruin Toman in the future. Manjiro agrees and tells Takemichi to bring Keisuke before they fight Valhalla to prove that he's more useful than Kisaki. Manjiro is aware that Teta is bad news, but he needs his strength, and if Takemichi fails, Manjiro tells him that he will kill him. Manjiro then yells at Takashi to show up as he knows he is eavesdropping. Manjiro then states that Takemichi is joining 2nd Division under Takashi and is now officially a member of Toman. Takemichi stays to wash away the blood from his face. He recalls he indeed wasn't a member of Toman and now feels embarrassed telling Naoto that he will become head of Toman. He wonders why Keisuke left. Takemichi finds a charm on the ground and a phone inside. He realizes this is a photo of the founding members of Toman, but sees a 6th person he can't recognize. Elsewhere, Keisuke meets with the person from the photo, Kazutora Hanamiya. The next day at school, Takemichi wonders what to do to bring Keisuke back. Atsushi and the rest approach him, commenting they heard he got into Toman and wish they can join soon as well. However, Takemichi comments is not as great as it sounds. Takemichi explains that he needs to bring back Keisuke or Manjiro will kill him. As Takemichi doesn't know who Valhalla is, Kazushi, as a delinquent encyclopedia, steps in to explain. Kazushi explains that Toman is led by Manjiro and Ken, and has 5 divisions each, with 20 members for a total of about 100 members. As former 3rd Division Captain Pachin was arrested, Vice Captain Peion joined 2nd Division under Takashi Mitsuya. The former leader of Moebius, Tadaaki Saki, then became the new 3rd Division Captain. Moebius was never a monolith, and those born in 1988 were led by Nobutaka Ozanai, while those born in 1990 were led by Teta, and the 2 crews always butted heads. However, after losing to Manjiro, Moebius disbanded, and the group led by Tadaaki Saki joined Toman, making Toman grow from 100 to 150 members. Takuya wonders about the remaining members of Moebius, and Kazushi explains who joined Shuji Hanma and created Valhalla, consisting of 300 members. However, Shuji is just the acting commander, and no one knows who the real commander is, making Valhalla also known as the Headless Angel. Kazushi then explains the 3 anti-Toman members were gathered by their number 3, Kazutora Hanamiya. At that moment, Kazutora enters the classroom looking for Takemichi and wonders if school is already over. Makoto tries to intimidate him, however, Kazushi recognizes the dragon tattoo and stops Makoto, explaining it to be Kazutora Hanamiya. Cheerful, Kazutora hugs Takemichi, commenting that he couldn't believe that someone 1 year younger than him and from the same school is part of Toman. Kazutora then takes Takemichi and wishes to take him to Valhalla's hideout. Stepping out of the classroom, Takemichi sees 2 people with broken legs. Kazutora explains that they are his most trusted kohai, but he broke their legs. Takemichi can't believe what he's hearing and realizes that going with Kazutora may get him in serious trouble. However, as this is a chance to meet Keisuke, Takemichi decides to go. On their way, Takemichi comments that Kazutora is in their 3rd year. However, he hasn't heard of him. Kazutora explains that he only went to school in the 1st term of his 1st year, as he later was in juvie. They reach an abandoned game center, and Takemichi notices graffiti of a headless angel. As they enter, Takemichi feels the atmosphere is quite different than in Toman. Takemichi then sees Keisuke beating someone and wonders what's going on. Kazutora states that it's a test of faith, as changing from Toman to Valhalla is like changing a religion. Keisuke is currently beating his 1st Division Vice Captain in Toman, his most trusted retainer. Keisuke stops and asks Shuji if it's enough. Some Valhalla members comment Keisuke went far more than they expected, but Keisuke states he isn't there for a lecture. Hanma then calls Kazutora, who tells him that he brought Takemichi, a new Toman member. Takemichi starts to realize that he may be the next person they do a test of faith on. At that moment, Valhalla members start cheering to kill Takemichi. Shuji explains that Keisuke, one of Toman's founding members, wishes to join them and that it will greatly help them. However, as he may be a spy, he told Kazutora to bring a witness. Shuji asks Takemichi what did Keisuke say on Toman's last meeting. Takemichi tells him that Keisuke said he's joining Valhalla and that Toman is his enemy. Kazutora states that that should be enough and that Takemichi is more than aware of what's going on in Toman than the last time he was there. Kazutora reconfirms that Keisuke wishes to join them as they will kill Manjiro, and Keisuke states he will help them out. Shuji then welcomes Keisuke as a Valhalla member. Takemichi asks Keisuke why a founding member is betraying Toman, and Keisuke states that Kazutora is also a founding member, which surprises Takemichi, but recognizes him from the photo. Keisuke states that Kazutora has a grudge on Toman and he won't forget it. In the summer of 2003, in his 1st year of middle school, a 12-year-old Keisuke and a 12-year-old Kazutora head for their usual meeting place, but see some punks and decide to fight them. As they reach the meeting place, they see Pachin excited about Toman's jackets being ready. Ken tells them to dress up and take a picture, but then notices Manjiro finishes eating Ken's chocolate parfait and ends up in an argument. Keisuke then explains that after taking the picture, an accident occurred that no one ever expected. In 2003, the newly formed Tokyo Manji Gang enjoys life and drive their bikes, but Manjiro is too slow with his moped and makes them ride slowly, waiting for him. Ken and the rest complain about Manjiro's moped, but Manjiro acts like it's a CB205T Street Hawk. An older biker gang stops next to them and mocks them for never hearing about them. One of them decides to wreck Manjiro's moped, but Manjiro gives him a cold look, stating that he'll kill him if he scratches the moped, which ends up scaring the guy. The gang then leaves, threatening to crush them the next time they see them. Ken and the rest are fine fighting the gang, but blame Manjiro for the trouble. The gang continues their ride, disappointed they didn't fight. Manjiro's moped stops and he realizes he's out of gas. Ken blames him for not thinking ahead as they told him they were going to drive far off. Ken states that they'll be waiting for Manjiro at the beach, but Manjiro decides to play it as Toman's problem and wants to rock, paper, scissors to decide who will go for gas. Keisuke Baji ends up losing and takes Manjiro's moped to a gas station while the rest head to the beach. Ken and Takashi decide to race who will be the first to open water and return. Kazutora notices that Manjiro is missing. Keisuke is unable to find a gas station. However, he meets the biker gang from earlier. They decide to keep their promise and wish to burn the moped. They first beat Keisuke and attempt to break the moped, but Keisuke projects it with his body, telling them not to touch Manjiro's bike or he'll kill them. A moment later, Manjiro appears, stating he forgot his swim trunks in his moped. Manjiro then proceeds to kick his own moped, shocking everyone. He then asks the biker gang how they dare hurt what's important to him. They attempt to tell him that he kicked his own bike, but in an instant, Manjiro knocks out one of them, revealing his important thing is Keisuke. As he confirms Keisuke is alright, the two of them face the gang. August 13th, 2003. Kazutora takes Keisuke with him and comments that Manjiro's birthday is coming up soon, and they will be getting him a present, a CB205T bike. Reaching the bike shop, Kazutora states that they'll be stealing it. Keisuke tells him that Manjiro won't be happy getting a stolen one, but Kazutora doesn't intend to let Manjiro know the truth. Keisuke is still against it, but Kazutora manages to convince him, as Manjiro will get his dream bike and that will make him happy. At night, they break into the bike shop. Keisuke still has doubts, but proceeds with Kazutora. They see the bike and realize it's not new, as it has custom features and is likely there for maintenance. As they cut the chains, Kazutora goes outside to open the shutters. The owner then appears, realizing that they're trying to rob him. As Keisuke panics and wonders what to do, the owner approaches him and recognizes Keisuke. Keisuke then recognizes Shinichiro and wonders what he's doing there, and Shinichiro explains it's his shop. Keisuke then sees Kazutora running with a weapon and yells at him to stop, but Kazutora proceeds and hits Shinichiro in the head. Kazutora states that they didn't have a choice as he saw their faces, but Keisuke explains that this is Manjiro's older brother, which surprises Kazutora. As Shinichiro isn't breathing, Keisuke wonders what to do. While Kazutora panics, Keisuke decides to call an ambulance. However, he hears police sirens and tells Kazutora they need to run. Kazutora is in a state of shock and mumbles that he did it for Manjiro, so this is Manjiro's fault, and thus he needs to kill him. The police arrest Kazutora and Keisuke, and as they're escorted out, Manjiro shows up and asks Keisuke what's going on. Keisuke starts crying and apologizes to Manjiro, while Kazutora still mumbles he needs to kill him. After explaining what happened in the past, Keisuke says that he avoided juvie thanks to Kazutora defending him, and they've been waiting for Kazutora to get out. Hearing the story, Shuji immediately accepts Keisuke and gives him a Valhalla jacket. Shuji then tells Takemichi to tell Manjiro that Toman and Valhalla's fight will occur on the 31st of December in an abandoned car lot. Later in bed, Takemichi thinks about the upcoming battle and that there's no way for him to bring Keisuke back. The next day, while heading towards school, Takemichi wonders what he'll tell Manjiro. A beaten-up guy calls him to come and sit on the swings with him, but Takemichi doesn't recognize him and decides to continue. The guy then mentions Keisuke and that he is Chifuyu Matsuno, 1st Division Vice Captain. Takemichi then realizes it's the guy that Keisuke was beating yesterday. Chifuyu tells him that he should be thankful for Keisuke as Takemichi ruined the new 3rd Division Captain ceremony, and if it wasn't Keisuke, he would have gotten it worse. Chifuyu then explains that Keisuke beat him to join Valhalla, not to defeat Toman, but to expose Kisaki. Takemichi and Chifuyu go meet with Manjiro and Ken at Shinichiro's grave. Ken and Manjiro explain that they're aware that Keisuke and Kazutora didn't intend to kill his brother, but Manjiro's heart still can't accept it. Manjiro explains that they tried to steal his brother's bike and give it to Manjiro as a birthday present, and the bike is all he had left of his brother. Manjiro had forgiven Keisuke, but he will never forgive Kazutora for killing his brother or Keisuke for going over to Kazutora's side. Manjiro wonders why Takemichi brought up Keisuke's vice captain and not Keisuke and what he wants to do. Takemichi recalls his earlier conversation with Chifuyu, who explains that even though Keisuke hasn't said it himself, he knows him and knows that he's investigating Kisaki and requests Takemichi's help for them to investigate Kisaki as well. Chifuyu then asks Takemichi what he wanted to do when he attacked Kisaki during the ceremony. Recalling the promise he made, Takemichi tells Manjiro that he wants to become the head of Toman and he will make Manjiro acknowledge that someday. As they leave, Chifuyu offers Takemichi that he will help him become Toman's head if he helps him with Kisaki. Takemichi wonders if Chifuyu believes he can become the head of Toman, but Chifuyu doesn't believe it, but will still help him. Takemichi agrees, and they shake hands, sealing their new partnership. To find a connection between Valhalla and Kisaki, Chifuyu decides that they'll go visit Nobutaka Osanai. Nobutaka tells them that when he first met Kisaki, he thought he was a dull brat. Kisaki offered to join him and will help him take over Tokyo. Nobutaka ended up doing what Kisaki told him, and in a year, he went from a moron who could only fight to the commander who ruled Shinjuku. Nobutaka realized he was just a stepping stone during the battle on August 3rd. Kisaki had planned everything and pushed Pachin to create a reason to fight with Toman and led Nobutaka to take all the blame. After Nobutaka was stabbed, Kisaki told him he didn't like how he did things and got closer to Manjiro, telling him he can prove Pachin's innocence. Kisaki intended to kill Ken and take the number 2 spot in Toman. After abandoning him, Kisaki now has a new sword that is Shuji Hanma. Chifuyu wonders why Nobutaka hasn't taken Kisaki out by now. Nobutaku comments that if he was just a good fighter or a little cunning, he would have done it. But Kisaki is bad news and will try killing someone without getting his hands dirty. As Nobutaka is afraid of what Kisaki could do, he decided to not be dealing with him. Chifuyu realizes that Kisaki is Valhalla's leader. Takemichi wonders what to do and decides to return to the present. In the present, Takemichi takes Naoto and they go visit Ken. Takemichi asks Ken if he remembers Valhalla and if the leader is Kisaki. However, Ken denies it and states the Valhalla leader is Manjiro. He proceeds to explain that Valhalla was a gang put together for Manjiro. Takemichi can't believe it, as Manjiro is the head of Toman. Ken tells him to recall the bloody Halloween 12 years ago, when Toman was taken out by Valhalla and the new Tokyo Manji Gang was created with Valhalla as its parent organization. Takemichi is surprised that Toman lost with the invincible Manjiro, but Ken states they lost because of Manjiro. On that day, Manjiro ended up killing Kazutora. Ken explains that Manjiro was never caught for killing Kazutora, since Kisaki had prepared a patsy for him. Manjiro then fell into darkness, and Toman was overtaken by Valhalla, expanding into a giant organization with Manjiro as the commander and Kisaki as the acting commander. Takemichi can't believe that Manjiro would kill anyone, but Ken questions him if he would have not done it himself if Kazutora had killed his brother, and then also killed Keisuke in front of him. As they leave, Takemichi still can't believe Manjiro is capable of killing anyone. However, he had started seeing glimpses of what had happened that day. He recalls seeing a lying Keisuke, Kazutora, and Manjiro's devastated faces, and wishes to save him. At Naoto's place, Naoto explains that on Bloody Halloween, Toman ended up losing to Valhalla, all because Manjiro ended up killing Kazutora. Takemichi then decides to save Keisuke, which in return will cause Manjiro to not make that mistake of killing Kazutora and also stop Kisaki's plan. Deciding on the new mission to protect Keisuke, they shake hands and Takemichi returns to the past. Takemichi finds himself walking Hinata home. She tells him to wait and comes out with a present. As Takemichi opens it, he sees that it's the same clover medallion he gave her, making them both have matching ones. Takemichi recalls how much it meant for Hinata and starts crying and thanks her. Ken calls Kazutora and asks him if they could stop the fight. Ken wonders why Kazutora hates Manjiro that much, even though Manjiro spoke in Kazutora's defense, which is the reason he got out of juvie early. Kazutora states he spends 2 years in a cell and is no longer the same. Ken states that he is still a part of his crew, and Kazutora states that this is what he doesn't like in him, and he leaves, stating that they will crush Toman in the upcoming battle. A day before the battle, Chifuyu takes Takemichi to meet with Keisuke. Chifuyu questions Keisuke if he found anything about Kisaki. He explains that he did his own research and found out that Kisaki is bad news, so Keisuke no longer needs to stay in Valhalla. Chifuyu wonders if Keisuke will really become Toman's enemy tomorrow. Keisuke tells him to not trust anyone who isn't his friend, and tomorrow they will crush Toman. Takemichi requests to talk with Keisuke alone. He then asks him not to die tomorrow, as that will make Manjiro sad. Keisuke states that he will kill Manjiro tomorrow, and Takemichi can go and tell him that. Later, Takemichi meets with Manjiro and tells him that he couldn't bring Keisuke. Manjiro states that it isn't Takemichi's fault if Keisuke doesn't back down, and that just means Keisuke betrayed Toman and they will fight tomorrow. Later, during a meeting with Toman, Manjiro explains that they will be fighting with Valhalla tomorrow and they won't show mercy to traitors. However, Manjiro then states that he will be childish for a moment and states that he can't fight his friend. Manjiro then hypes up everyone and tells them to help him win tomorrow and bring Keisuke back. As everyone cheers Toman, Hisaki is amazed and comments that this is what he wanted. Manjiro apologizes to Ken, wondering if he is a failed commander, but Ken tells him that the cheers disagree. On October 31st, 2005, the day of the battle, Takemichi sees a large group of people at the place of the fight and wonders what they're doing there. Chifuyu explains that they're there to see Toman versus Valhalla, as the winner would be one step closer to running Tokyo, thus all the delinquent bosses are here to watch. Chifuyu then points out to the Haitani brothers, charismatic brothers from Roppongi that can gather over 100 people with a single call. The fat dude on the car, Lean Man, runs Ueno and is as strong as a beast. Hansen then steps up, explaining that he will be overseeing the fight and introducing himself as a member of the Ikebukuro criminal black members. Chifuyu explains he is someone big from the 1988 group and will be like a referee. Hansen then calls both groups and Toman and Valhalla to appear. Manjiro thanks Hansen for agreeing to oversee the fight. Hansen states that if the fight sucks, he will be taking them both down. As representatives, Ken and Kazutora are called. Hansen asks them if they will be fighting 5-on-5 with their best guys or an all-out melee with everyone. Ken states that Valhalla wants this fight, so they must decide, but has one condition. If they win, they will be taking Keisuke back. As Ken insists on that, Kazutora gets angry and knocks out Hansen, commenting that they haven't come here to play house or something, but to kill them all. The two gangs then run towards each other, starting the fight. The brawl between Toman and Valhalla starts, and top Toman members are doing very well. Takemichi tries to look out for Keisuke, but ends up in a fight with a Valhalla member. Kazutora attempts to attack Manjiro, but Ken stops him, stating that he won't let him touch him. However, Shuji Hanma steps in and pushes Ken away, deciding that they will be fighting each other, and leaves Kazutora to fight Manjiro. Takemichi is in trouble, losing his fight, but Takashi saves him. However, he scolds him, asking him why he came, since they're there to fight and he needs to stay focused. Takemichi gets motivated. However, as he sees two big scary guys in front of him, he gets scared again. Chifuyu gets behind him, telling him he will be covering his back, and that there's no one here who isn't afraid. But what matters is how you face that fear. Recalling Hinata's death, Takemichi gets a hold of himself and starts fighting back. As the fight proceeds, Takashi tells Ken that Valhalla consists of older and bigger members, and they're twice as many as Toman. While the captains can hold their ground, the weaker guys are getting owned. Ken goes and protects a weaker member, who apologizes, stating that he wishes he could fight like the captains, but Ken tells him that he will protect all. As more of the weaker guys start to collapse, Ken sees Takemichi running and swinging his fights, yelling at Valhalla members to come and fight him. As Takemichi yells that he will crush all, the weaker guys get motivated and stand up to continue fighting. No longer needing to protect them, Ken goes on a fence and starts beating Valhalla members one by one. As he dispatches a large number of enemies, Ken turns towards Shuji to continue their fight and sends him flying a couple of meters with a single punch. Manjiro follows Kazutora, who climbs on a pile of used cars. A Valhalla captain launches a surprise attack, but Manjiro manages to block it. Kazutora then states that he didn't promise to fight one-on-one and explains he brought the strongest fighters while he was in juvie, Chanbo and Chom. Chom assumes that Manjiro isn't that strong, as typically those are said to be strong are not actually strong. However, as they engage him, Chom realizes that Manjiro is indeed the real deal. Kazutora then explains that he lured him here as his footing won't be stable and he won't be easily launching his deadly kicks. Chanbo is surprised that Manjiro is easily able to fight against him and Chom, but they manage to grab him and restrain him, giving Kazutora a chance to come and hit him in the head with a pipe. As Manjiro falls, everyone is surprised, and Kazutora believes that they've won. Manjiro is bleeding, but manages to get up and asks Kazutora if he's Kazutora's enemy. Kazutora then recalls a moment when Manjiro told him that he belongs to him, along with his pain and suffering. He then recalls how he was being abused by his father, while his mother didn't do anything. Kazutora then tells Manjiro that he went to juvie because of him, and naturally, Manjiro is his enemy. Killing someone makes you a bad guy, but killing your enemy makes you a hero. Chanbo and Chom then hold Manjiro while Kazutora proceeds to hit him with the pipe. Angry, Manjiro asks did he kill his brother because he was his enemy. He then hits Chom with the back of his head and raises his leg while Chanbo is still holding him, and then kicks Kazutora in the head, knocking him down. Manjiro knocks out Kazutora, Chom, and Chanbo. However, he then falls on his knees and stops moving. As everyone sees that, the Valhalla members guess that he's exhausted and decide to use the chance to defeat him, and a small group of them, led by one of the Valhalla remaining captains, leads them towards Manjiro. Takemichi looks around, asking if someone can help him, but as he sees that everyone is busy fighting, he decides that he himself needs to save Manjiro, and he heads towards him. While running side by side with Valhalla members, Takemichi constantly gets hit by them, but he stands up and continues to run. The Valhalla captain Choji, who has reached Manjiro, is about to hit him. However, Kisaki steps in and knocks him out. Seeing that, Takemichi recalls that he had seen Choji and Kisaki in the past. Kisaki announces that his division will be taking care of protecting Manjiro. Hearing that, all Toman members praise Kisaki and comment that he's stealing the spotlight. Takemichi realizes that even if they win, it will be great for Kisaki, and if they lose, they will be absorbed into Valhalla, and either way, Kisaki wins. At that moment, Keisuke Baji comes and hits Kisaki with a pipe, stating that he's taking him down. Kisaki's man, Hamada, then pushes Keisuke down, and as Kisaki gets up, he tells him to kill Keisuke. Chifuyu gets in front of Keisuke, asking him not to fight Kisaki, as taking him down now will mean that he's betraying Manjiro. Keisuke punches Chifuyu, telling him to move and that he only kept him around because he could fight. Chifuyu tells him that he's there to protect him and that he won't be holding back. Keisuke gives him a try and 10 seconds to attack him. However, Chifuyu doesn't move or attack Keisuke. Keisuke is about to start climbing the cars again, but Takemichi comes in and charges him, holding him and yelling at Chifuyu that they need to protect Keisuke. Chifuyu cries and states that he cannot hit Keisuke. In that moment, Keisuke hits Takemichi, but he manages to fight the pain and keeps holding Keisuke. However, Takemichi then realizes that Kisaki isn't the one that kills Keisuke, but Kazutora. As for Kazutora, he realizes he's gone, and in that moment, Kazutora appears behind them and stabs Keisuke in the back. Takemichi pushes Kazutora back and asks Keisuke if he's okay, and Keisuke confirms it's just a scratch. Chifuyu jumps on Kazutora, who mumbles that it's Keisuke's fault. Takemichi is glad that he managed to save Keisuke, and recalling the events until now, he states the only thing left for him to do is crush Kisaki and become the top of Toman. Keisuke realizes that Takemichi and Chifuyu are also after Kisaki, but punches them, telling them to stay away. As Keisuke heads towards Kisaki, he tells Takemichi to take care of Manjiro. Keisuke then faces the 50 members of the 3rd Division by himself. Kisaki realizes that Kazutora failed and tells Hamada to be careful. Hamada believes the 50 men they have would be enough, but at that moment, he gets knocked out by Keisuke, who then points a pipe at Kisaki. However, in that moment, Keisuke starts spitting blood and falls to his knees. On his knees, Keisuke collapses. Rushing to his side, Chifuyu demands to know what Kisaki did to Keisuke, to which Kisaki responds that he did not do anything. Chifuyu notices a pool of blood under Keisuke, and Takemichi realizes that the stab wound Keisuke sustained was actually severe. As Chifuyu screams Kazutora's name, Takemichi realizes that everything is going along with Kisaki's plans, with Keisuke dying. Kisaki says that Kazutora lured Keisuke into Valhalla to kill him, which Takemichi recognizes as a lie to provoke Manjiro, who gets up. Addressing Kazutora, Manjiro tells him that Keisuke was the one who stopped Manjiro from killing Kazutora by explaining Kazutora's motives and rationale. Takemichi notices Manjiro's lack of emotion, just as Manjiro declares that the fight is over. Hanma protests this, challenging Manjiro, but he's quickly knocked unconscious by Manjiro's kick. Upon witnessing Hanma's defeat, the rest of Valhalla run away, fearing for their lives. Kazutora tells Manjiro that people can betray anyone, and presents him with an ultimatum. To end their fight, either he or Manjiro has to die. In response, Manjiro punches Kazutora, telling him that if he destroys the things he cares about, he will have to destroy Kazutora. As Manjiro continues beating Kazutora, Draken says that no one will be able to stop him. Thinking back to his second prison visit to Draken, Takemichi realizes the events are heading to a bad future and cries upon knowing that he's helpless. On the phone, Hanma remarks that Keisuke was a traitor after all, which causes Kazutora to think that Keisuke is abandoning him, as he thinks back to the night he killed Shinichiro. After Kazutora swears to kill Manjiro, Keisuke hugs him, telling him not to say something so depressing, as he will be with Kazutora until the end. As Kazutora realizes that he took what was precious to himself and destroyed it, he cries, saying that he will be with Keisuke soon. Despite his wounds, Keisuke rises and screams for Manjiro. He thanks Manjiro for getting mad on his behalf, and while getting up and walking towards him, he says that Kazutora's stab wound will not kill him. Instead, he opens his own switchblade and stabs himself. Keisuke tells Kazutora that he will not be the one to kill him, and he stabs himself. Chifuyu rushes to Keisuke's side, asking why he did it, while Kazutora rises and tells Manjiro he will die alongside with Keisuke. Manjiro tells Kazutora that he will beat him to death. Takemichi asks what Keisuke wanted to achieve by stabbing himself. Keisuke tells Takemichi that Kisaki is the enemy, something he realized when he witnessed Kisaki offering Manjiro Pachin's freedom in exchange for the position of 3rd Division Captain. He does not consider Kisaki the 3rd Division Captain, saying that only Pachin can be that. Keisuke says the 6 founding members of Toman are his treasure, and although he was unable to fix Toman on his own, Manjiro has no reason to kill Kazutora now, as Keisuke died by his own hands. Nearing death, Keisuke tells Takemichi that he reminds him of Shinichiro, and says that he's leaving Manjiro and Toman in Takemichi's hands, to which Takemichi cries, telling Keisuke not to die. Keisuke lies in Chifuyu's arms, telling him that he would like to eat Peiyang yakisoba. As he cries, Chifuyu tells Keisuke that he will buy him some, and Keisuke tells him that they'll split it, thanking him with a smile as he dies. Chifuyu screams in agony. Angered by Keisuke's death, Manjiro begins repeatedly punching Kazutora, to the extent of knocking him unconscious. As he holds Keisuke in his arms, Chifuyu tearfully tells Takemichi his frustration in being unable to help or save Keisuke. Takemichi also shares these feelings, reflecting upon his failed mission. Suddenly, he remembers Keisuke's dying words to him, in which he entrusted the fate of Toman to Takemichi. Screaming, Takemichi throws himself between Manjiro and Kazutora in an attempt to stop Manjiro, who threatens to kill Takemichi as well if he continues to interfere. Even after getting punched by Manjiro, Takemichi desperately implores him to stop, saying that Keisuke would have not wanted this to happen. Manjiro angrily tells Takemichi not to talk about Keisuke, which causes Takemichi to cry out in frustration. Taking off his jacket, Takemichi explains that Keisuke died for Toman, killing himself so that Kazutora would not be responsible for his death and Manjiro could forgive him. As his jacket falls, Keisuke's Omamori charm falls out, and Manjiro asks Takemichi where he got the charm. Takemichi explains that he found it after the 3rd Division Captain nomination. The other founding members, including Draken and Mitsuya, recognize the charm and are surprised. Manjiro realizes that Keisuke had held on to the charm since Toman's founding, recalling their goal of a new age for delinquents. As he is shocked, a glimmer of light enters Manjiro's dark eyes. 2 years ago, as Keisuke was driving Manjiro on his motorcycle to meet up at Musashi Shrine, the two talk about their school life, which Keisuke considers boring, and Manjiro responds that Keisuke would not be bored if he was there. Manjiro compliments Keisuke's bike, and Keisuke proudly proclaims that it's the best bike in Tokyo. Just as they stop for traffic, Draken pulls up next to them, saying that his bike is the best in Japan. Mitsuya suddenly joins them, countering that his bike is the best in the world. Finally, Kazutora appears, telling them that his bike is the best in the universe. They continue to bicker and tease each other, comparing the rate of their puberty. The traffic light changes and Pachin appears, riding past them. He insists that his bike is the best, telling the rest to stop talking about stupid trivial things and to race him to the shrine. The rest of the gang is fired up by this. Meanwhile, Manjiro has fallen asleep on Keisuke's bike. Because Keisuke has to carry a sleeping Manjiro up the shrine stairs, he ends up in the last place, which the others tease him about. Manjiro wakes up as he had intended to make an announcement to the others. He mentions the Black Dragons, which are an older, more brutal gang. Manjiro asks Kazutora, who lives in the Black Dragon's territory, why he did not ask his friends for help in fighting the Black Dragons, a gang Manjiro plans to fight. Just then, Keisuke proposes an idea. They should form their own gang. He has already planned the positions as well. The confident and strong Manjiro as a leader, the dependable Draken as vice leader, the pacifist Mitsuya as commander of the elite guard, the powerful Pachin as banner carrier, and Kazutora and himself as the attack unit. Manjiro says that he has already decided on a name for the gang, the Tokyo Manjiro Gang. The name the others designate as lame, much to Manjiro's chagrin. The members tell Manjiro that they will devote themselves to Manjiro's goal of creating a new age for delinquents. Manjiro asks Keisuke what type of gang he envisions, and Keisuke replies that he desires a gang that puts their lives on the line for each other. After, they buy charms from the shrine to celebrate their newly formed gang. In the present, Manjiro reveals the origin of the charm, explaining that Keisuke created Toman and its founding values. Takemichi realizes that Keisuke was fighting to uphold these ideals through his actions. Manjiro tearfully apologizes to Keisuke's body for straying from these ideals as the rest of Toman weeps. The sound of police sirens approach the scene, and both gangs begin to leave the car lot. However, Kazutora decides to stay with Keisuke's body as a way to take responsibility for his actions. Manjiro does not stop him from doing this. Just before he and the rest of Toman leave, Kazutora bows in apology. Although he tells Manjiro that he does not expect forgiveness for both Shinichiro and Keisuke's deaths, and he will carry the weight of their deaths for the rest of his life. The October 31st conflict, which resulted in 1 death and 1 arrest, became known as Bloody Halloween. Toman was considered the victor of this conflict. 2 weeks later, many are still dealing with the aftermath of Bloody Halloween. Chifuyu visits Keisuke's grave, leaving behind incense and half a container of Peiyang yakisoba. He breaks down, grappling with his uncertain future without Keisuke. Meanwhile, Draken and Takemichi visit Kazutora at juvie, where he expects to receive a 10-year sentence. Kazutora believes that this will not be enough to atone for his actions, but he says that he will face his punishment. Draken discerns that Kazutora intends to commit suicide as a form of penance and implores him to stay alive. Kazutora replies that he cannot think of anything else to do, and Draken relays a message from Manjiro. Kazutora will always be a part of Toman and has been forgiven by Manjiro. Kazutora tears up upon hearing this. Manjiro is shown visiting Keisuke's grave. As they leave the facility, Takemichi hopes that Kazutora will be okay. Draken tells Takemichi that Manjiro also has a message for him. Draken relays Manjiro's message to Takemichi. Show up to the next Toman meeting, as there's something important to tell him. Takemichi is nervous, as he failed in his goal to save Keisuke's life during Bloody Halloween, and Kazutora was arrested. However, Manjiro did not kill Kazutora, and Takemichi wonders if this will prevent Kisaki from taking over Toman in the future. Meanwhile, Draken brings Takemichi over to his home in Shibuya. Takemichi is shocked to find that Draken was raised and lives in a brothel. As he waits for Draken momentarily, Takemichi is mistaken by one of the girls there to be a customer. Takemichi misinterprets this mistake as a surprise present from Draken and ends up showering before the session, which he's eager for. However, Draken shows up, clearing up the mistake before it progresses further. In Draken's room, Takemichi looks at the pictures on his wall, which include Manjiro, Emma, and Keisuke, people who Draken considers precious to him. Draken confesses that he wanted to kill Kazutora as well, even though it was wrong. He thanks Takemichi for having the resolve to stop Manjiro, something he couldn't do himself. As Takemichi leaves, he thinks about what Draken says and understands, since he's also trying to save those he cares about. He then shifts his thoughts to how Emma and Draken's feelings seem to be reciprocal. Just then, he sees Emma walking in front of him and is about to talk to her when she hugs Manjiro, declaring that she loves him. Upon seeing Emma's affectionate embrace with Manjiro, Takemichi is shocked, believing that if Draken saw this, it would lead to a conflict between him and Manjiro that would cause the fracture of Toman, as Draken has shown clear romantic feelings for Emma. As he imagines the fight between Draken and Manjiro, Hina suddenly pops up beside him, along with Naoto. Hina is determined to investigate the reason behind the affair, as she has recently been interested in detective novels. Throughout her investigation, she references Sherlock Holmes frequently. Following Emma and Manjiro, the three of them find them at a cafe, where they witness Emma feeding Manjiro cake. According to Hina's intuition, Emma's eyes signify that she's in love with Manjiro. Suddenly, Yamagishi approaches the group, and they inform him of the current situation. Yamagishi says that he's heard rumors about Emma leaving Manjiro's house with them after she had stayed overnight. From this new information, Hina concludes that Emma is a two-timer. She drags Takemichi with her to confront Emma and Manjiro. Takemichi protests, as he does not believe that confronting someone as strong as Manjiro would be a good idea. But Hina tells him that she feels too bad for Draken. Suddenly, Draken appears, wondering what they're talking about after hearing his name. Hina slams her hands on Emma and Manjiro's table, admonishing them of their actions. Unexpectedly, Draken laughs upon seeing the two, and teases Manjiro for taking his little sister out for her birthday. Hina, Takemichi, and Yamagishi realize their mistake. Emma and Manjiro are half-siblings. This also explains their resemblance, as well as why they left the same house. Emma says that she had already told Hina about this before, but evidently Hina forgot about this. For her birthday, Draken gives Emma a plush bear, which Manjiro points out is the one she wanted at the arcade. As Draken leaves the cafe, Yamagishi, Takemichi, and Naoto marvel at Draken's coolness. Blushing, Emma happily hugs her plush bear, and Hina congratulates her. Outside, Hina remarks that she has not seen Emma look that happy before, and hopes that things will work out well with her and Draken. She tells Takemichi that she also hopes that things will work out well with her and Takemichi. Grabbing her hand, Takemichi assures that they will, and the two of them happily run off, leaving Yamagishi and Naoto behind. After Mitsuya summons Takemichi to his school, Takemichi arrives, but Mitsuya is nowhere to be found. As he waits, Peion approaches him. To Takemichi's surprise, he and Mitsuya go to the same school. Peion, wearing a gaudy shirt underneath his uniform, tells Takemichi that Mitsuya is currently preoccupied and ordered him to retrieve Takemichi. They arrive at the entrance of the home economics room, where Peion remarks that he hates that girl. That girl in question is a hostile club member who insults Peion's shirt, admonishing him for taking up her club leader's time. Hearing the commotion, Mitsuya emerges, greeting Takemichi and ordering the girl, Yasuda, to calm down. Yasuda remarks that Mitsuya is the only delinquent that she does not hate. As Takemichi walks into the classroom, he's surprised to find Mitsuya, the well-respected leader of a crafting club, giving sewing advice to his club members. As he has to help another club member, Mitsuya tells Takemichi to wait a bit, saying that it will be ready soon. When Takemichi asks what it is, Peion reveals that Mitsuya has been personally making Takemichi's uniform. This is special, as Mitsuya only made the uniforms for Toman's founding members. As he sews Takemichi's uniform, Mitsuya says that their uniform is their most formal wear. He explains that this is his way of showing his gratitude for saving Draken and uniting Toman on Bloody Halloween. When Takemichi thanks him, Mitsuya reassures him, saying that he's doing it because he wants to. Finished with the uniform, Mitsuya tells an excited Takemichi to try it on. Peion remarks that he cannot wait for tomorrow's meeting. The next evening, Toman gathers for their meeting. Takemichi admits that he feels bashful in his uniform, while Peion and Mitsuya encourage him. When Draken sees Takemichi, he smiles, telling him that his uniform does not suit him at all. Takemichi agrees, laughing that he feels like somebody dressed him up. Draken welcomes Takemichi into the gang again. Takemichi passionately thanks him, bowing. Draken says the meeting will begin, remarking that it will be an important meeting for Takemichi. Manjiro appears on stage, with Hanma and Chifuyu behind him. Draken remarks that the meeting will be rough, as it is intended to conclude Bloody Halloween. Seeing Hanma, the crowd wonders why a Valhalla member is there. Takemichi stares in confusion. As he watches Hanma and Chifuyu in confusion, Takemichi wonders what's going on. Recapitulating the events of Bloody Halloween, Manjiro announces that Hanma, the vice leader of Valhalla, has a message for Toman. Hanma reveals that Valhalla never had an official leader. Because of this, they will now join under Toman. Hearing this announcement, Toman rejoices over its growth, chanting in celebration. Watching the events unfold, Takemichi realizes that nothing has changed much, as Valhalla's affiliation with Toman is essentially the same as the gangs combining. Just then, Hanma calls for Kisaki to step forward, crediting him with connecting the two gangs. Remembering Keisuke's words about Kisaki being the enemy, Takemichi shudders in horror at the idea of Kisaki taking over Toman. Realizing the events from Keisuke's death and Kazutora's survival have been for naught, Takemichi concludes that he has failed once again. After Kisaki oversees a handshake between Hanma and Manjiro, Manjiro announces an additional topic to discuss. Manjiro somberly reflects on Keisuke's death. He turns to Chifuyu, telling him to continue. Stepping forward as 1st Division's vice captain, Chifuyu reveals that although he considered leaving Toman after Keisuke's death, Manjiro stopped him, asking if he wanted to thoroughly snuff out the 1st Division. To Chifuyu, leading the 1st Division is a great responsibility. After consulting with Manjiro, he has decided to name a new 1st Division leader. Shouting from above, Chifuyu nominates Takemichi as the 1st Division leader. He explains that this is what Keisuke would have wanted, and Manjiro agrees. Asking for a response, Manjiro tells Takemichi to raise his head. Thinking of the futures that rely on him, Takemichi realizes he can still enact change within Toman. Amid his tears, he raises his head high, loudly exclaiming that he will do his best. Draken asks what he's crying about, noting Takemichi's lack of discipline. Chuckling, Mitsuya remarks that he has to redo the embroidery on Takemichi's uniform, and Manjiro says Takemichi raised his head too high. As Takemichi time leaps back to the future, he has a lot in his mind. Even though it seems not much has changed with the prevention of Kazutora's death, as Valhalla has become affiliated with Toman, he leaves with hope, remembering his new position as 1st Division captain. Takemichi arrives in the future, where he finds himself in the video store with his manager standing across from him. Just as he remarks that not much has changed, Hasegawa bows an apology to him, telling him that the video he requested is out of stock. Rushing to the bathroom, Takemichi finds himself wearing a designer watch, bag, and clothing, while his hair is slicked back. He's shocked by his new appearance. As he walks out of the store, a scary-looking man approaches him, telling Takemichi that he's late. He orders Takemichi to get into a car. Confused and nervous, Takemichi asks the man where they're going. The man says they're going to Takemichi's place, just as he ordered. As Takemichi tries to process the idea of him ordering around scary-looking people, he decides to call Naoto. However, as he scrolls through his phone, he's unable to find Naoto's number. Just then, the man tells Takemichi that they have arrived. As they step out of the car, Takemichi is shocked to find a group of men bowing in respect. Two of the men, vaguely familiar to Takemichi, admonish him for his tardiness, telling the man, revealed to be Yamagishi, that he should do his job better. In shock, Takemichi realizes that the two other men are Makoto and Takuya. As they hurry to Takemichi's place, Takemichi takes all of this in. He lives on the top floor of a high-class apartment complex, already successful. He is shocked at the lavishness of his apartment. There, a group of men thank him for having them over. Staring out the window, Chifuyu tells Takemichi to answer his phone more often. Seeing Chifuyu, Takemichi is relieved to find a familiar face, telling him that he has no idea what's going on. Chifuyu responds, confused over Takemichi's lack of awareness. He tells Takemichi that he has a Toman admin meeting, revealing Takemichi's status as Toman's top admin, much to his shock. For the Toman admin meeting, Chifuyu brings Takemichi to an upscale building, where the other Toman admins are enjoying a Chinese meal. As the realization that he is a Toman admin sinks in, the meeting seems to begin with a request for yearly payment reports. However, because not every admin has arrived yet, including Mitsuya, the commencement of the meeting is delayed, giving Takemichi time to access his surroundings in the present circumstances. Takemichi is relieved and surprised to learn that Mitsuya, Pachin, and Peion are still a part of Toman as admins, observing that Pachin and Peion have not changed much over 12 years, as they still engage in noisy banter. Additionally, he recognizes other members of Toman who are now admins, Yasuhiro Muto and Nahoya Kawata, both captains of Toman 12 years ago. However, Takemichi does not recognize some admins at the table, including Hakai Shiba, who refers to the Toman captains as oldies, Seishu Inui, who disparages their seniority and lack of contribution, and Hajime Kokonoi, who remarks that Inui is too blunt in his words. Chifuyu tells the three that their status as ex-Black Dragons does not give them superiority. Takemichi is left to wonder who the Black Dragons are. Pachin asks about Manjiro, which piques Takemichi's attention. Hakai responds by calling Pachin a loser and says that the oldies always evoke Manjiro's name. This provokes Pachin, who kicks over a chair and demands to fight Hakai. At the table, Hanma comments on the dullness of the situation and informs the group that their meeting is not over routine payments. Instead, this meeting was held to determine who betrayed Toman, which had led to the search of Toman-run businesses by police. As the former Black Dragon members and the Toman captains argue over who snitched, Kisaki enters the room, which compels all the admins to bow and greet him. After the Toman admins bow in greeting to him, Kisaki cheerfully tells them that the formalities are unnecessary. As Takemichi notes that Kisaki looks different somehow, Hanma mentions that Kisaki rarely shows up for admin meetings. Kisaki asks to speak to Takemichi and Chifuyu alone, taking them to a separate room. Kisaki reflects on the past, telling them that he never thought that he would still spend time with the people he knew 12 years ago. He asks Takemichi and Chifuyu how they feel towards him, concluding that they hate him. Revealing that he set up Bloody Halloween by manipulating Kazutora, he tells them that Keisuke's death was his fault, to the shock of both Chifuyu and Takemichi, who wonders why Kisaki is telling them this information now. Chifuyu asks about Kisaki's motive, and Kisaki replies that he was desperate for power and admiration, but did not anticipate Keisuke's death. He tells Chifuyu that he means it, and bows an apology, saying that he has learned that friends are more important. When Takemichi asks if he regrets his actions, Kisaki replies that he never forgot what he did. Though he contends that Takemichi and Chifuyu may still hate him, he requests to have a drink with them. As the three of them toast to Keisuke, Takemichi thinks that Kisaki has unexpectedly changed into a better person, wondering if the current future is a good one. Kisaki asks to say one more thing, revealing that his previous statements about Keisuke's death was a lie. He actually used Kazutora to kill Keisuke. Kisaki tells the shocked Takemichi and Chifuyu that he intends to continue from where he left off. Takemichi's vision becomes warped, and he eventually blacks out. When he awakens, Takemichi is tied to a chair. He awakens next to Chifuyu, who's beside him. Chifuyu's face is bloodied and beaten. As Takemichi realizes Kisaki drugged them with the drinks, Kisaki tells Chifuyu that he knows Chifuyu is a police informant, asking him if this is a form of revenge for Keisuke's death. Kisaki continues to repeatedly kick Chifuyu, who tells Kisaki that he wanted to get him out of Toman, which he believes has turned into a warped organization. Chifuyu confesses that he's the snitch while maintaining that Takemichi was not involved. In response, Kisaki says that he is the one that determines if Takemichi was involved. Before shooting Takemichi in the thigh, Kisaki asks him why he's been acting like he's not involved with the situation. As Takemichi screams in pain, Chifuyu desperately repeats that Takemichi was not involved. Telling Chifuyu to shut up, Kisaki prepares to kill him and asks if he has any last words. Chifuyu addresses his last words to Takemichi. He tells him that a lot has happened over the last 12 years, including Manjiro's disappearance, Draken's death penalty, and his own involvement in the crime. However, Chifuyu says that deep down, they have not changed. He tells Takemichi that he leaves the words of Keisuke and the future of Toman to Takemichi. Kisaki then shoots Chifuyu in the head, mocking his words. As he prepares to kill Takemichi, Takemichi cries at witnessing Chifuyu's death. Kisaki yells at Takemichi for crying in his impending death, and weeps as he holds the gun to his head, calling him a hero. Just before Kisaki shoots Takemichi, the room goes dark, and Takemichi is carried out just before he falls back into unconsciousness. He wakes up near an underpass, with his gunshot wound wrapped up. In front of him, a man with long flowing hair strands, whom he mistakes as Keisuke at first. However, the man turns out to be Kazutora, who has been released from prison. Suddenly, Kazutora punches and kicks Takemichi, and tells him that he witnessed a woman being beaten on the street, similar to what he had just done to Takemichi. He reveals that the men who were beating up the woman were members of Toman, leading him to contemplate what kind of organization Toman had become. Crying, Kazutora tells Takemichi that he does not care about him, and that he only came to save Chifuyu, recounting how Chifuyu picked him up after his release from prison. Chifuyu had told him that Toman had become a dangerous criminal organization, and of his desire to restore Toman back to how it used to be. Kazutora tells Takemichi that Chifuyu was fighting to save Toman alone, demanding to know what Takemichi was doing at that time. Takemichi realizes that he had become so warped that Chifuyu was unable to rely on him. Kazutora says that Takemichi was servile to Kisaki. Additionally, Draken is on death row and Manjiro has disappeared. Kazutora asks where Toman is going, thinking back to the times when Manjiro wanted to build a new age for delinquents. He wonders if Toman's means to grow large from drugs, prostitution, illegal casinos, and moneylending was what Manjiro wanted to create, and what Keisuke wanted to protect. Kazutora concludes that this is not the Toman the founders envisioned, and he and Takemichi vow to restore Toman. Sitting in Kazutora's car, Takemichi asks Kazutora what caused Toman to change. Much to Takemichi's shock, Kazutora says that Manjiro has completely changed. Takemichi insists that someone else, like Kisaki, must have caused this, not Manjiro. Kazutora informs a horrified Takemichi that Pachin and Peion were killed on the orders of Manjiro, during the time Takemichi was held captive by Kisaki. Additionally, Mitsuya has gone missing for several months, as Manjiro has been purging the old members of Toman. Kazutora says Manjiro has become evil from the violent influence of Kisaki and the money from the Black Dragons, and he wants to save Manjiro. Kazutora has successfully found the Black Dragon's hidden bank account and plans to cut off the cash flow. Chifuyu was set to remove Kisaki, but was killed because he backed Kisaki into a corner. When Takemichi wonders how Chifuyu was able to back Kisaki into a corner, Kazutora tells him that a police detective wanted revenge for the death of his sister, which had been ordered by Kisaki. However, Kisaki had an alibi. He was at an admin meeting. Kazutora reveals that Chifuyu had found proof that Kisaki ordered Hina's murder, but he had kept the evidence hidden. Kazutora pulls up to an alleyway and tells Takemichi that someone wants to meet him there. Takemichi is relieved and delighted to find Naoto. Unbeknownst to Kazutora and Takemichi, Naoto set this up in order to arrest Takemichi. In an interrogation room, Naoto shows Takemichi a video secretly recorded by Chifuyu. Naoto tells Takemichi that his actions in the past dramatically changed the future. He and Takemichi have not spoken since middle school. Takemichi is a top admin in Toman, and Hina was still killed when Akun crashed his car into hers. Chifuyu and Naoto had worked together to avenge Hina's death. As he watches the video, Naoto tells Takemichi he had no choice but to arrest him. In the video, Takemichi orders Akun to carry out an assassination as ordered by Kisaki, although he does not know the identity of the target. In another secretly recorded video, Takemichi has a meltdown upon learning that the assassination target was Hina. Naoto says that although the video shows proof of Kisaki's involvement in Hina's death, Chifuyu kept the videos hidden in an attempt to protect Takemichi. In shock, Takemichi falls to his knees, blaming himself for the deaths of Hina, Akun, and Chifuyu. He cries about his uselessness in saving the future and wants to give up. However, Naoto hugs him, telling Takemichi that he's not useless. Not only did he save his life, but he also helped shape Toman into the organization it is now, through the influence of Draken, Chifuyu, Kazutora, and Keisuke. Naoto urges Takemichi to change the world, as he believes that he's the only one who can fix the future. Takemichi tells Naoto that he thought things would be different in the future, since he was able to become closer to the top of Toman, but Hina was still killed. Naoto tells Takemichi that he believes Kisaki is obsessed with Hina, since he gets her killed in every future. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door of the interrogation room. Naoto tells Takemichi that they do not have much time, as Takemichi is about to be moved to a detention center, making their meetings difficult. They decide to shake hands as Naoto tells Takemichi that he must find what happened between him and Kisaki. As time leaps, Takemichi thinks of those he has determined as enemies, the Black Dragons and Kisaki. He swears to remove them from Toman and save those he cares about. When he arrives back in the past, Takemichi is at a bowling alley with Hina, where he scores a strike. He recalls that he was interested in bowling during this time. Upon seeing Hina, he tears up. As he gets another strike, the person in the next lane also gets a strike, commenting on how they were in sync with each other. He introduces himself as 2nd Division Vice Captain Hakai Shiba. Shocked, Takemichi recognizes him as one of the Black Dragon members at the admin meeting. To be continued. Did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.